in Blender. So just as a quick review, I'm going to delete this. I'm going to add a plane. And you tell me, somebody tell me, just unmute and tell me, which, by the way, I wanted to mention the displace modifier. Okay, so I'm going to just use the displace modifier. Holy cow, where is it? There it is. And I get a new texture right here. New texture. I go to the textures tab and I switch it to clouds. Okay, the clouds texture, and then I go back and then oops to the modifier, and then I've got that, and I can even type clouds right here. I know it's the clouds texture. And then why is it not going? What's the one thing that is the easiest to forget? How do I make it happen? What am I missing here?
You have to subdivide.
Very good. Okay, I go into edit mode and subdivide a bunch of times. Then once I go back, there's my my displace modifier, and I bring the strength down, just make it slightly bumpy. Okay, and then I can add this smooth shading. All right. It's a lot of steps, but if you do it twice, you'll remember a little bit better. If you do it once, you'll never remember. If you do it twice, you'll remember a little better. If you do it 3 or 4 times, you'll remember it. So I just wanted to show again. In edit mode now, I can do my trick here of selecting something in the back and just add some hills back there if I want. It's not required, but if I switch this proportional editing to enable, and then as I'm dragging, I scroll with my mouse wheel to change the effect size, and it's going to affect a lot more than what it would normally. So once I get a few bumps raised, I can go back out, and then I've got some hills that it doesn't look like it drops off in the background, right? Okay, so let's see. Yeah, let me show you a few things. Let me show, what should I do first? Yeah, I'll just go in order. So a rock, oh, there's a few things. So there's a few things that I need you to have, requirements, right? So there's trees, several trees, and I'd say that's at least 3 trees. And preferably different, I think, is on there. Some different trees, and then obviously the bumpy surface. Okay, but then there's like 4 or 5 other things. Does anyone remember some of those things that you need to have? You got to check the rubric always, but what are some of those things that we can have? There's like an option of 5 of them. I need at least 2, I think, is what the rubric says. Do you remember? Sky, the sky will be there automatically, so, but good guess.
Isn't it like rocks and grass and like water?
Good, yep. And I think there's one other, I think it was bushes, which is like a tree, only a little different, okay? But yep, good. So let me show you a couple of those things. Rocks. Rocks are pretty easy. I mean, depends on how detailed you want to get, but even the most detailed one is not terribly difficult. If I get a sphere like this, and I could scale it on the X or Y axis and make it kind of oval, that was way too much. And then how could I make this thing bumpy? What did I just use to make my ground plane bumpy? I could do a displace modifier. And so look, I can select the texture that I already used, clouds, and there it is. And I could go into subdivide or into edit mode and subdivide a couple times, and my rock can be really bumpy like that. And I smooth it out, and I got a bumpy rock just like that. Pretty easy. I could also, you know, if I don't want it perfectly oval like that, I can go in and do the same thing that I did with the hills maybe, and just move vertices around with the proportional editing. Or I can go into sculpt mode and sculpt that thing a little bit if I want some custom rock shape. But then I can just kind of push it down into that hill, and there's a rock poking out of there, okay, just like that. So that's one way to do it. And then you could even map an image of a rock onto it. That's what makes it really good, really look good, because otherwise it's just a solid color. Okay, so that's pretty easy with a rock. I could duplicate it, resize it, rotate it, whatever I want to do. Okay, all right, that's the rock. Using the displace works really well on that too. So after the rock was, water. Okay, how would we do water? If you think of water in real life, where does water show up? What is the ground like? What in comparison to the other ground? If I walk Yeah, somebody have something?
Like a kind of a ditch, or just where the ground slopes.
Good. Yeah. Good, Ella. Good observation, because if I dropped, I was just going to say, if I dropped water on this, where would the water go? To the lowest point, right? And so usually when there's water, there is, like Ella said, a ditch or like a river bed, right? And it's lower ground than anywhere else. That's why it goes there, okay? So let me show you a cool way, pretty simple way to do that. If I go into edit mode on my ground plane, and I can do a circle select, which is C. A lot of you haven't seen that probably. And then I can just select whatever I want like this. So if I press C, and I get the circle select, and then I can do my scroll wheel and make it bigger or smaller, the selection size. So I'm just going to get about this size, and I'm going to go like this and just make a little winding river on this. And I'm just going to select this part of my ground plane. Then I have to hit escape to get out of circle select. It's a little strange, but okay. So it winds around. Okay, I've got that selected, and now I'm going to do the same thing. I've still got enable editing, proportional editing enabled. That's what I meant to say. But I want the effect size to be smaller. Oh, I selected some random vertex out there. That's all right. And I just pull it down like that, and there's my riverbed. Pretty cool, right? So then I'm going to pull this one back up. There we go. And then what I can do is add another plane and scale it up about the size of the other one and push it down until all I see is that riverbed fill up. Look how cool. I love doing that. I think that's fun. So there's my water, and then I can add materials or textures or whatever to this plane right here to make it look like water. And that's the example that I showed last time. The water looked really good. They looked at a tutorial and somebody showed how to make water look really good. So you can do that, or at least make it glass, right? See-through, and that will look like water. Okay, so that's how we can do a river. There's other ways to do it. You can, if I went into sculpt mode on this object, I could sculpt it too and pull those down or push things up. Mountains push up, hills, and then river bed, pull it down. So sculpting you can do, or that proportional editing trick as well. That's more like a Mississippi River right there. That was kind of deep. Okay, so there you go. There's a couple little tricks that you can use. I mentioned this last time, but I wanted to, or I showed this last time a little bit, maybe a mention. I want to mention it again, which is, well, the grass. I'm going to go to the grass and do a little bit with that. But how do you get multiple colors on your grass instead of just one color? Remember how to do that? Add some grass here. So I'm going to add a particle system and get some hair. If I made this hair green, if I go to my materials and make it green, go to cycles render, it's all going to be very uniformly green, which is not natural, right? So how do I get different colors?
You could map an image that just has all sorts of colors.
Good. Yep. I usually get a picture of a field or something with those similar colors, browns and greens and yellows. And then the grass will inherit that color of the map, the texture that's mapped on there. And that's always a better option, much more realistic. Okay, so there's my grass. What else do I want to do with that? I want to add some to it. Okay, what's the biggest problem that you see right here with my grass? Any problem that you see?
It's sticking through the water.
Yeah, it's in the water, and that's not good. Okay, unless you want that. Sometimes there's grass in the water, you know, that's okay. But let me show you how to get rid of that. Somebody asked this first period, and I had to look it up because I'd done it once or twice, but it'd been a long time, and I looked it up. And I'm pretty sure there's different ways to do this. The one that I found today was different than I had done, but I kind of like it. So it's a few steps, but it's not terribly complicated. I'm going to hide my river water there. And so, oh, I don't have my selection anymore. That's too bad. That's all right. If I get my circle select back, I'm going to select all this that's in the riverbed. And I'm going to make this barren, I guess is what I'm doing. Taking away the grass off of this. So I can add or subtract grass to certain parts of my project or plane or mesh or whatever. I'm just going to select all this. I want to get rid of the grass coming up out of the water. All right, so let's escape. Let's get to that right there. Now, this is a little complicated. It's just, you gotta know the right menus and stuff, but this little triangle right here, I've hardly ever used this. I hardly ever do. It's the data tab or options. So in data right here, this upside down triangle, there's something called vertex groups. And now that I've selected this part that I don't want grass on, I want to add a vertex group right here. And it's just by default called group. I'm okay with that. I'm going to assign it like we would a separate material. I've selected it. Now I'm going to assign it that all those vertices that are selected are now part of this vertex group. And so now I can go to my grass, my particle system, and tell it what to ignore. And so down here, there's a menu that I can open up called vertex groups. And I just add the one that I made. And look what happens. This is opposite of what I want, but, oh, wait. Where's my grass? Oh, yeah, object mode. Okay, I got the opposite. I got only grass in the riverbed. So I'm just going to click on this right here, and it switches. And there we go. Get rid of the grass in the water. So that's something cool that I relearned this morning. So then when I unhide my water, there it is without grass. So it's just become a lot more fun, right? I love that kind of stuff. Okay, good. So a couple other things there. And now let's see.
I had a question about tree settings.
Okay.
Whenever I click away, the setting to the left would always disappear. Is there a way to get back to that somehow?
There is not. I don't know why that happens. It happens with not just the tree add-on, but some other things in Blender, I've noticed. I don't know why that is. I hope in future versions they change that. I don't know why that would be a thing where you can't change it once you've done anything to it. You move it or resize it or anything, and those go away, right? There's just no way around that. I've looked it up a bunch. Yeah, sorry. So you just have to, if you want different trees, you just have to remake the trees. That's just how it is for some reason. Okay. Thanks for asking.
Can you show how you got to the circle select one more time?
Yeah.
I didn't see what you did to get to that.
It's just an edit mode. It's just it's like border select. So I press B for border select. I press C for circle select.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I use that for things every once in a while. Just hadn't come up yet. And then the funny thing is that you have to press escape to get out of it. I don't really like, but I guess maybe there's not a better way. Because border select, you select something and then it's done, but circle select, it just stays with you until you press escape on the keyboard. Okay. All right, so a couple more things then. With the grass, first of all, if you have a lot of grass and you have a big plane, it's always best to scale down. Some have been saying they have a really big one, a big a big plane with grass on it. The bigger it is, the more grass you need to fill it, and the more Blender has to work and your computer has to work. And so it's always good to scale things down so it's pretty small. So that's one thing. Another thing with grass, if your computer starts to lag or something, when you have grass on there, you can hide it. So up at the very top of the particle system, if you click this eyeball right there, it hides the grass. You can still see the plane. The grass is just not showing. This little camera right here means it's going to render still. And you could click that and it won't render also, but then you don't get it rendered. So just click the eyeball and then it doesn't have to process that all the time, all that grass, the particle system, okay? That's one way to avoid the lag there. The last thing with grass, let me get that back. Oh, I guess it doesn't matter. If you render it and it looks really thick, almost like sometimes it's like a cone, like it's this thick at the bottom. I think I mentioned this last time, and it's thin, like down up to a point at the top. That is the thickness down at the very bottom. So we've got a root thickness of 1 unit, whatever that is, and tip at 0. And so if it's too thick, I would bring that down. And sometimes I just go straight to like 0.1 or 0.2. And sometimes I put the tip. The tip, usually grass doesn't go to a perfect tip, like hair kind of does at the end. It's really fine. But grass is a little thicker, so I usually do 0.1 or 0.2 also. Then it will be thinner, and you just practice it. You just do a Shift Z to see what it looks like. Get the camera really close to the grass and see what thickness you want it. There's a bottom thickness and a top thickness. That's it right there. Okay. All right. Any other questions about grass or anything else you've seen so far? I want to show you one other thing.
Yeah, I have one quick question.
Okay.
Is there any way to make the ground a different like color or texture than the grass?
Yes, and I should have looked this up because somebody asked last period and I don't remember exactly how to do it, but let me give you a clue and see, then you can maybe play around with it and try and figure it out.
Okay.
I just don't do that enough to remember. But I'm pretty sure it is in, and I think I saw that student's comment that this did work, so maybe it will. Let's see, different colors. So if I go to the materials and add a color like I would for any object, if I wanted 2 colors, and I don't think I need to apply it to anything. I just add a separate color, and I'm going to name these like ground, and the other one I'm going to name grass. So I'm just in material mode. Make sure that you have that selected, that your ground plane. I'm in material mode, and I just clicked the plus right here to add another material. And grass is green, and ground maybe will be brown. Right? So we've got 2 different materials, and I named them because when I go back to the particles, I'm going to choose one of them to be the grass color. So I think this is it, but right here, I don't know if this is open or not by default, but render, this render section on the grass, the particle system. Click that, and then look, I can choose between the 2 materials. And I'm pretty sure you choose the one that you want the grass to be, and then the other one should be the other one. The ground. Try that. If that doesn't work, I might be out of order right here, and I can switch the order. Look, I think maybe whatever's on top becomes the ground color. Yeah, Calvin, let me know if you figure that out, if it works, and tell me which one does work. Okay, good question. Any others? I got one more thing to show, and then I'll let you go. And that thing is, my rock's hidden there below the grass. It is lighting. Okay, let me show you some just quick, basic outdoor lighting. There's a million things you could do and learn, but let me just show you something that will make it a lot better real quick. I just take the default lamp that's already there, and I pull it out to the side, maybe keep it kind of low. That's just what I like. But then I go to the lamp properties over here, and I can switch that from point light to sunlight right here. Okay, I don't have to delete the point light and add a sunlight, because you could in the add menu, but you can just switch it to whatever type of lamp you want. Sun is there for outdoor type stuff because it tries to replicate the sun and how it shines. And what it does, there's this dotted line right here, and that's the direction of the sun. This is a directional light. And so it casts a shadow in one direction. And so I like to kind of put it low and then rotate this on an angle like that, kind of like it's the evening time. That's the best time for lighting. And so it's going that direction, and that's where it's going to cast the shadow. Okay, so then I just have to test it. I'm going to get rid of my particle system for a second so it doesn't crash on me. I'm just going to hide it. I hope it doesn't show up. There we go. Okay, so it's got the sun, but it's not very bright, and so I need to go back and change the brightness. Let me select it. If I go back and I change the brightness, by default it's 1, so it's pretty low. I'm not going to do 1500 like I do with the lamp on this, but I will do like a 4 or 5. Yeah, see, that looks pretty good. Also, I can change the size of it if I want, and it won't be as harsh of shadows, but I wouldn't go as high as the lamp. I might do like 0.2 or something. So it casts shadows, just not quite as strong. Okay, so that's one thing with the lighting. That's a quick and easy thing that we can change the lighting, but now the sky is still gray, and that's obviously not good, not realistic. And I've got my golf ball wedged in the grass there. Looks like a golf ball. I would fix that. So with the sky, let me show you the sky real quick. in this world tab right here, it's like fourth one over from the left. It's called the world tab, and we haven't done much in here. I haven't showed anything anyway. This gray right here, that's where it's getting it. That's the background color. It's that gray. So we can change that to whatever we want. So I can change it to blue, make it brighter. And then it's a nice blue color for my sky, which is a lot more realistic than dark gray. But it's not 100% realistic still. That's a lot better, but the sky is not a perfect, like, solid color, right? Even if it's a really blue sky, what is the sky, what type of color does it have? Blue, yes, but it's multiple shades of blue. What happens when, or what's it called when you go from one color to another? Fades, and we call that a gradient, right? So I want a gradient color. There's another trick that you can use, which is kind of fun. Rather than this color right here, just like an image texture, I can go to this menu. I'm still in the world tab right here. And I switch this, and I don't want an image texture. In fact, that's probably what somebody mentioned that they did. It's probably what you did, and that it doesn't show up in the render. Oh no, we figured out what you did. But that's another thing that won't really work, is an image texture right there. Anyway, the sky texture is kind of fun. And some of you might recognize this from games and stuff. They use a sky like this a lot of times in games. But there's a gradient now, like a light blue to a dark blue. And I can mess with this a little bit, and my lighting kind of went dim, so I'm going to go back to the lamp settings. I'm going to bump that up to like maybe 7 or something. 15. Yeah, so I'm just going to get it to where I think it looks good. That's kind of washing that out, so it's probably a little too high. Anyway, won't go that high. Okay, the last thing, I guess, that with that sky, back to that sky, I can click and drag on this and make it like different times of the day. It's kind of fun. So if I hide the sun that much, it's dark now, or it's dusk, or it's early morning, or I can change the direction of where the sun's coming from. So that's kind of fun. But that just gives it a little different look, a little more realistic in the background. Okay, that is all I wanted to show, I think.